Hello and welcome to the Hypertrophy Odyssey, chapter 390. It is the last day of the week, aka the Big Bang Attack workout. I'm feeling pretty good, better than I have been feeling earlier this week. But anyways, to the main subject matter for today. All roads lead to Rome. So, the main reason why I wanted to talk about this is because that meme has been on the rise, and it is something that I was probably going to talk about eventually. Not necessarily all roads lead to Rome, but the idea of things ending, which I've talked about ending somewhere, I think, in the past, or at least somewhat. Or if I haven't, this will probably be the episode to talk about it. But I think in the broader context of our own lives, I think that it's a good reminder to know that all things end. Unfortunately, it happens, but a lot of people don't want to think about that. Even though it's always on the cusp, but you never know exactly when or if or how or whenever it's going to end. Sometimes the ending is chosen for us, and unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about it. Sometimes you're just at the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong person behind the wheel, and game over. And it's sometimes like that. But unfortunately, that's the way the world works. But there are many things that we can learn from the things that don't involve that, because obviously we can't live life with just happenstance being the only thing that we are worrying about, because, well, there are literally entire franchises of movies about that, aka the Final Destination movies, where, people will just live in fear for the rest of their lives, and that's a whole other can of worms that is for a different day. But for today, we're going to be talking about all roads lead to Rome and the idea behind the clock meme right here, because it is something that I think is a nice social commentary, not only on the world around us in the sense of society as a thing, because right now it's starting to look like Rome, but in the last days, but that's kind of a different conversation, but we'll talk a little bit about that. But also in the personal lives, I think people are starting to, I guess, get in a weird meta irony about certain things where they are just seeing the ends of certain just things, I guess. I don't know how else to describe it, but like meme culture, I guess cultures really, where we're just getting a weird blend of certain things. And now it's like we're getting copies of copies of copies. And with the advancement of AI, it's even more just who knows what's even real anymore. So there's a whole host of things, but at the end of the day, it all is going to end somewhere and somehow. And I think that a lot of people would like to go through that. So in today's episode, we're going to look at that, the meme, the idea that things will come to an end, the memento mori, if you will use the Latin term or terminology for it. I recently watched 28 Years Later, which is kind of funny because he uses the motif of this in the movie at a certain point. We'll talk a little bit about that, as well as I will discuss the idea, the quote that always comes along with this, the all roads lead to Rome type of thing. So I will talk about that. But with that being said, I will see you at Mother Base. All right, so started this day off with single arm lat pull down, which was pretty good. But anyways, back to the main subject matter for today. All roads lead to Rome. So the main reason why I wanted to discuss this is because that meme had become popular at the time of doing this, and it's still kind of popular. Every once in a while, you will see the occasional rabbit holding the timepiece in a chat discussion, or the saying all roads lead to Rome, because it is something that is, in essence, a timeless idea, really, where that there is an ending. I think a lot of people don't realize that. I think that a lot of the time when talking about this meme, people have made it into a stupid idea, of course, but that's what memes are, to get it into the consciousness. But time is ticking is a very true and honest statement about the world and its generality, that things come to an end. And a lot of people like to subvert themselves to think that that doesn't happen. More recently, I went out with a friend and we had a couple of drinks and had a good time. And it made me think with him. I was like, hey, do you remember the last time we had like going out and drinking together night? And we couldn't think of it. We were trying very hard. But at the moment, I realized that this is probably going to be the last time going out drinking time. So in essence, it has become the last time, which is a nice idea because I get to close and make an ending to it. A lot of people go through life not realizing the endings of things because Either one, they don't know it's the ending, or two, they choose to leave it open and hope to God that it will happen again. That's the issue with a lot of stuff. And you can say that with many of things, through all out the world, it depends on who you are, but everybody, there's always an ending no matter who you are. It is something that you cannot escape. So that's why you have people that, let's say, you'll see this meme a lot with people that are dating that are older, time's ticking, that type of stuff. But as well, you'll see it as people who say this when like they have like lofty ambitions and goals, and then all of a sudden time's ticking. A lot of people don't realize that the endings of these things are coming. No matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, time is always ticking. And it's always an idea to try to make it so you can actually attempt to have an ending for it. A lot of people leave things open-endedly to try to have it so they can come back to whatever it is and try to pick it up from wherever they were. But the issue is that as time progresses, the window for doing things becomes ever so smaller, and thus they become extinct whether you want it to or not, and thus things end. And I think a lot of people forget about that and have the issues with that, because then they leave these open loops in their brain of things that they want to do or memories that they want to keep or keep going that they can't because of X, Y, or Z reason. And that's what happens. I mean, looking back at it, this meme always reminds me of the idea of having the last time you play Call of Duty with your friends, or the last time you go out drinking with them, things like that, where that is something that is a rarity to actually know that it is the last time. And I've noticed that now in my life that it is better for me, or at least in general, to figure out, where does this close? Where is this the last time? Not necessarily as like a last time I'm going to see them, last time I'm going to talk to them, but more so the chapters of certain parts of life closing, so then that way it's done. We have a nice, peaceful way to finish it. I remember when I used to be a live streamer, when I streamed, I had a last stream. I remember particularly I made it. I went out of my way to do it because I wanted to give the closure of the channel a certain purpose, which a lot of people don't end up doing. They end up just kind of abandoning it or just moving on, which is understandable because some people don't want to close a chapter in their life. They want to let it be open. But at the end of the day, all roads lead to Rome, meaning it's always going to end no matter what you do. And no matter how hard you try to prevent it from ending, there will always be an ending. So better to make it an ending that is on your terms and on your ideal versus having it just be done for you. And I think that a lot of people get that done for you idea more than they actually want to admit, because they choose to ignore the rabbit, basically, that time is ticking on a lot of these things, that things are moving along. A lot of this you could see in so many people being so wanting an ending with a lot of relationships or things like that, or even if it's like a friendship that fizzles out or whatever, they want something and not realizing that it's over. There is no more room for closure because closure has gone. It is done, Remembering that everything has an end, the memento mori, as I was talking about earlier, is something that is important, because no matter what you do, things end. And it sucks when you don't have a chance to give the ending that you want, of course, but you have to make it end. And I think that that's one of the biggest things about this meme, is that the entire idea of it is that you're going to Rome. It's like all roads lead to Rome, right? So no matter what you do, you get to the end destination. So it's like a reminder of things will end no matter what you do. So you might as well try to end them in the best way that you can, or at least end them with your terms. More likely than not, you're probably not going to do it. Hell, if you think back to the time, like the last time you did X, Y, or Z, did you know that it was going to be the last time you were going to do X, Y, and Z? And then think about that. I think a lot of people don't want to think about that, but then if they do and then close that chapter in their life, they probably would be able to enjoy more things and also not be as strained as they are, because they have these open loops in their brain.
destination. So it is something that is a very interesting to me. It's like a trying to escape a destiny for something when in reality you can't do that. The destiny has been fulfilled and you are just taking your time to get to that final point, which is back to Rome.
And we're back. Welcome to the workout debriefing. Exercises not filmed, none. Exercises skipped, also none. Got everything in, thankfully. But anyways, back to the main subject matter for today. All roads lead to Rome. So the main reason why I wanted to discuss this is because this has become a little bit of a meme currently, but it is something that goes beyond the meme in the fact that I feel like it is something that is more of a meta commentary in the world today as we get into stranger and stranger times. And I think that, as I've just talked about in this episode right here, history doesn't repeat, but often it rhymes. So we're getting into a little bit of a weird amalgamation of things where things are starting to get familiar. And I think we're going to reach into a point where we're going to now start seeing maybe not necessarily warfare on the large scale that we once saw, but more so along the lines of warfare through the internet and information and everything else. We've already been kind of like that, but that's kind of a different story for a different day. But at the end of the day, we all will go back to Rome, right? Isn't it all just going back to the same destination or to the end, whatever end that is? We are getting there, and I think that that's the main thing about this meme. And not only that, but that time is always ticking, no matter what happens, no matter what you think is happening in the world, whether you think anything happened in your world or even in your day, something is happening because you're getting closer and closer to whatever the end of whatever you think is in your life is. I think it is important to remember that there are endings to things regardless of whether you want them or not. Hell, there's an ending to this series eventually. But I think that the actual substance of the ending is something that we will talk about in a different episode for a different day. But I think that it's a reminder that things do end is a good thing to remember, because I think a lot of people think the good times are never going to end or the bad times are never going to end, but they will. And once they do, other things will take its place. And obviously you can continue in turmoil and make it so that the bad times just keep going or the good times just keep going. But eventually, at a certain point, no matter how hard you try, all roads lead to Rome. So you got to watch it out. Also, right there. With that being said, tell me what you think in the comments section down below. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions about this one. If you have or have familiarity with the meme or have any idea about it, please leave it in the comment section down below. Or if you have any particular idea of what might be coming to an end near you, or just a feeling of what that's like, or just seeing that, or even the all roads lead to Rome part, I would love to know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video with anybody who may or may not like it. I will be back on tomorrow with a new video. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I will see you in the next one. Keep it heavy. Stay safe out there and stay cool. Actually, stay warm because it's cold now. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.